Hello everyone, my name is Petru and welcome on WellCode, because today in this video we're going to talk about a super important topic, and that topic is certifications. Do you need them? Do you not need them? Are they useful, and to what degree are they actually useful? But before starting, don't forget that if you have any questions, you need to only write a comment and we will reply to them as soon as possible. So me and my whole team of experts will take good care of you and will give you a good answer. And speaking of good answers and receiving help from me and my team, we have a free program that you can start doing right now. So if you want to find out more about coding, if you want to get your feet wet and write your first programs from scratch, from ground zero, from no experience, go on wellcode.com, register for a free account and just start learning, because over there you will get all the help that we can possibly offer to you. You just need to write your questions and we will be there to help you. We will give you also lots and lots of feedback so that you can make the first step in the right direction and that you will be assisted throughout your whole journey. And now let's start talking about certifications, because this is one of the biggest and most talked about topics when it comes to changing careers, when it comes to becoming a software engineer. And on our Romanian business, I think this was one of our most frequently asked questions. So for example, we will have one of those live videos where at least 100 people, not 100,000, sorry. So around 100 people would be live. And on every video, every week by week, someone would ask about certifications. And it's a really good question, because after you study something, you want to have some sort of guarantee that what you are studying will be actually useful. And maybe 50 years ago, when we didn't have internet and technology, the certifications, and especially the going to a college and having an education there, were very important. And I will also explain why having that kind of traditional education was so important. So before technology, the only way that you could interview someone, if you had a company and you wanted to hire a specialized worker, was to invite him in person and evaluate him. And a lot of the jobs make it almost impossible to have a good understanding of that person's skill level. So for example, if I'm a doctor, a medical doctor, I can't just operate live on a patient. I can't just cut him open in front of some interviewing committee, and I need to have a certification coming from a medical college. Or I don't know exactly how those are called in English, but you get the idea. So because of that, people needed real institution to evaluate very well a person before that person can practice that job. And that's the reason why medical schools were built. So for 6 years, people who want to become doctors have lots and lots of exams. Two times a year there's the exam schedule, and sometimes you are also evaluated during the school year, and you have to do lots and lots of things in order to become a doctor, because you cannot be evaluated just by the means of a job interview. You can just have a 2 or 3 hours interview and people and to offer enough information for people to make a decision if they hire you or not. And that's true for a lot of professions. You can't just hire a lawyer and trust him that he knows every possible laws and he knows how to interpret them in a 3-hour interview. You need way more time than that. So before our times, before the internet, that's how stuff worked. You have that sort of pre-interview, which was the college, or more specifically the exams that you were having there. So that was the reason why certifications were created, in order for giving the employers an overview about a person's skill set. But times have changed, and now in order to invite someone for an interview, that person doesn't need to pay for travel, because that person can be on the other end of the world and just having an internet connection, and you can do the interview using Zoom or Messenger or whatever communication platform. And because of that, a lot of jobs that can be evaluated pretty quickly, or like a lot of people applying for a lot of jobs, can be evaluated very quickly on the phone or during an interview. And one of those jobs is the software engineering, because software engineering is just a way of thinking. You need to be able to solve problems by using code, by writing code. And even though you can't evaluate how well someone can build an entire application, a complex application, during a 3-hour interview, you can definitely look at what other applications that person has developed. And if you pick randomly a feature that person has built, you can ask him about that feature. You can ask him to give you details about how the person approached implementing that. You can ask also all sorts of details, and you can also discuss hypothetically how that feature can be modified in order to solve a different problem, in order to fix something or to make it more complex. And that's what all the biggest companies do currently. So for example, when I interviewed at Google, I had 2 1-hour interviews where I got lots of problems to solve. I think I had 2 or 3 problems in every of those interviews. And by giving me those problems to solve, the interviewer could see my way of thinking. He can see if I have a logical approach, if I know how to write, how to transcribe the logical approach from my mind into the computer. And also, he can see how well I communicate, how well I'm able to explain my ideas, because this is also a super important thing, because applications nowadays are too complex in order for them to be built by a single programmer. So teamwork is also very important. So now you might say, okay, I get it. You can be evaluated during a few hours interview, and you can prove yourself that you know how to write code even without having a college education or without a certification. But if I get a certification, won't I be able to find the job easier? And the answer is no, not necessarily. And myself, we had job openings for web developers because we created our platform on wellcode.com. We built it ourselves, and we in the team are programmers, and we always are looking for talent. We put several web developer job announcements on the internet, and one thing that I saw was that even for people with certifications, they were not able a lot of times to build something from scratch and to really write code on their own. And that made me research more about how those certifications are awarded. And the truth is that for you to evaluate someone and check if that person is really able to build an application and to be very fluent in the technology, in a specific technology, you actually need to interview them. And if you have hundreds of people who want to get that certification, that means that you will need probably hundreds of hours to evaluate the entire group. So a lot of times for getting such a certification, you're just given a test with maybe several options, and you just need to choose the right option, and you don't need to build an entire project. And what does that do? Well, it checks how well you memorize some things, how well you just memorize the concepts, and how well you are able to reproduce them when you see them on the piece of paper that you're taking the exam on. And that's most of the time not enough. And a lot of times certifications are even correlated with weak candidates, because a lot of times the mindset of the employer is the following: well, the employer might be interested in having a person who is who's able to build applications, and because of that, the clearest indicator for that is the previous experience, like how many projects or how complex were the projects that the person that I'm interviewing has built. And nowadays, the one-page resumes are the most popular and the most used. So if I'm getting a one-page resume from a candidate, and instead of using all the space possible for describing how interesting and how complex his personal project was, he uses it instead for just listing out certifications and programming languages that the person knows or thinks he knows, I tend to get suspicious. So why on earth would you use that space for just listing a certification when you could talk more about the cool things that you have built? So knowing that, the most important thing that you can do for boosting your chances for being hired as a software developer is to build cool projects, to build nice applications, to put them online, to make your code open source so that employers can read it, can evaluate it. Because if you do that, a lot of times you'll get lots and lots of job offers. So I think that was the most important thing, or that is the most important thing that my successful clients do. They put their code online, and that code can be read by recruiters, by employers, and they can be evaluated even before being invited for an interview. Okay, so if you do that, you will boost basically your hiring chances. And I think in 99% of the times, having a good personal project, having built a complex application that people can see, that people can use, and that people can read the code for, is way more useful than having a certification that basically tells about you that you were somewhere, you took a test, and you score above a certain threshold on that test. And a lot of times those tests are on paper, which is ridiculously, because like when you are a programmer, you will write your code on a computer. So it's a bit crazy, and I definitely don't recommend going for certifications, going for papers, because it's in my opinion, you will waste a lot of time doing that, and you can spend that time in a more wise manner by just implementing an application, putting it online, making your code open source, and then listing your code on your resume. So having said that, I'm thankful for your attention. I'm super happy that you've been here and you watched this entire video. I hope it was very helpful, and I see you next time.